Hello, and welcome to another episode of Adamo Baseball, where I'm your host, Adamo. Okay, so before I get into this, I'm not going to promise anything yet, but I'm going to try a massive undertaking for this YouTube channel. For right now, I'm not planning on putting it on my podcast because there's a lot of work involved. And I don't know if I'm actually going to be able to do it. However, I am hoping I can make it work. I'm actually going to be meeting with my social media manager later today to be able to try to make that, at very least, come up with some kind of foundation for it. Because if it works, I'm going to start it first week of April. I'm still going to be doing my Friday show, specifically on my podcast. I'm not sure if I'm going to put my Friday show on my YouTube channel or not. Again, she and I are going to have a meeting about this, and it's going to be taking a lot of my time. So, before I announce what it is, I'm going to have a separate video, if I do it, where I actually explain what I'm doing, how I'm going to be doing it, and what it entails. But until then, I'm still going to be doing my Friday show. If I can make it work, I'll try to do a Monday show if this undertaking doesn't work out. I'm actually kind of excited about it, and I really hope it works out. This video, however, is not about that. This video is about breaking down possibly the most confusing team in Major League Baseball. I'd read a few articles about, whatever it is the Rockies are doing. I had question marks just looking at the lineup that MLB.com had whenever they put it out. And I've looked at several other websites since then. The coldwire.com/Rockies, RotoChamp. I don't know that anybody really knows. The pitching staff is, you could call it stable if you want. It's really hard to have a good ERA pitching in Denver. I know they freeze the balls beforehand so that not every single one goes out of the park. I mean, the first 1-0 game was in, I think, 2007 or 2006. And the team was founded in, I think, 1990. Their Instagram page is 1990 Rockies. Or I think that's their official Instagram page. So, their rotation, you at least know who the starters are. The bullpen, I at least know who the bullpen is. And the lineup. Okay, I want to make this clear. When I looked at the lineup initially, for first base, they had 3 different players listed. I did research just to figure out who everyone thinks is going to be their first baseman. We don't actually know. And what's more, we don't know specifically who's going to be playing second. We don't know specifically who's going to be playing third. So, when I say who it is that I've got in each position, bear in mind, that is based off of what I could find. I'm not an insider. I don't have access to anyone involved in their organization. I'm not going to pretend to actually know that this is the lineup. So, bear with me, okay? So I'm going to start with the lineup, That way I at least end with something that I'm at least confident that I know who they are. Leading off, Rymel, Tapia, left field. This was one of the few consistencies. In fact, probably the only consistency with their lineup. His on-base percentage is not exactly as high as someone you would expect to be in a leadoff role. It's more or less good enough to at least have somebody there. He doesn't really draw enough walks. He doesn't strike out too much, but it's still not exactly great. And I don't know what his fielding's like. So really, the only reason why I have any optimism is the fact that all sources had the same person leading off. That at least says that there is faith in him leading off. That's good enough. Batting second, here I've already found contradictory statements. Garrett Hampson, center field. I saw a source that had him second. I saw a source that had him fifth and not playing center field. I'm just going off of the original, and frankly, he's not particularly great at the bat. Good enough, but not for a guy batting second. Batting third, this is one that the sources either had third or fourth or fifth. And he's actually one of the few players where you can go, okay, this makes sense. Charlie Blackmon, right field. For quite a while, he has been their best player. And I know a lot of people talk about Trevor Story a lot, but Charlie Blackmon is their best player. I will say that. Hands down, he is their best player. He is their all-star. He has been to multiple all-star games. He's been to 5, I think. And it's well-deserved. Batting cleanup, Trevor Story, shortstop. Look, he's a great shortstop. He can get big hits. He can hit cleanup. His issue is that he strikes out a ton. If he can cut his strikeouts in half, okay, you're looking at a league MVP. But he strikes out way too much. He needs to cut that down a lot. Batting fifth. Okay, this is the first baseman. I circled C.J. Cron because he's the one everyone thinks, or at least a lot of people think, will be playing first base. We don't actually know. When I looked it up, okay, he's nothing phenomenal. The other two guys that it has are Greg Bird and Josh Fuentes. Josh Fuentes I've seen also at second base and at third base, and again, I don't know that anyone actually knows. So he may be starting this year either at first base or at a different position, possibly second, possibly third. He could be a bench player that gets a lot of time. I have no idea, and I didn't even bother looking up Greg Bird because I saw his name nowhere else. Batting sixth, Ryan McMahon, third base. I don't know how he is as a third baseman, but he does not hit particularly well. And sixth actually is about the right spot in the lineup for him. Maybe seventh. Batting seventh, Brendan Rodgers, second base. Not a particularly great hitter, which may be why a lot of sources have Josh Fuentes playing there instead. Now, if you're going to have a guy that you're originally planning on playing first base switch over to second, you better know what you're doing, because that is one of the hardest transitions in baseball. You would think that it wouldn't be, but it really is. And batting eighth, cleanup, Elias Diaz, catcher. He's actually the one I'm most optimistic about. while, yes, he is batting 8th, he's not a particularly bad hitter, specifically for a catcher. I mean, he's not going to knock it out of the park every day, which is kind of sad because it's Coors Field, but he's not a bad hitter. He established himself in Pittsburgh. Looked like he shared time as a catcher, so he probably suffered from that. And if he can start regularly every single day for a season, we can actually get a feel for how good he actually is. He's the one that I actually have optimism for, and he may be traded at some point this season, so we don't really know yet. The lineup. Look, this is a mess. For lack of a better way of putting it, this is an atrocious mess. Charlie Blackmon is far and away the best player, not just in the lineup, but on the team. And then Trevor Story is second. Don't be surprised if Trevor Story gets traded this year. They traded Nolan Arendano. I know it's a trade because of the amount of money and the extension that they gave him. Yeah, Arendano is now in St. Louis trying to get them a division crown because they're not winning a championship. But yeah, whenever he was gone, that's part of what caused all this madness within the infield. There's going to be a lot of problems. Trevor Story pretty much is the only consistent feature. He's probably going to get traded this year to a contender that needs an infielder. So, or an interior infielder. So, yeah. Rotation. Call it stability if you want. Frankly, I see it as you know who your 5 guys are. German Marquez. Typically it would be about a 3, but as I said at the top of the episode, it's Colorado. Your ERA is going to be higher. That being said, the ERAs that they have for these guys are a bit more elevated than you would necessarily like, even in Denver. German Marquez, he's more of a 3, like a high-end 3. He should not be your number 1 guy. Kyle Freeland, same story. As with Antonio Senzatella, I'm sorry for butchering that name. He's about where he should be in the rotation. Third, John Gray. His upside is that he gets a lot of strikeouts. He hasn't had a 200 strikeout season yet, but he's flirted with it a few times throughout his career, but that's pretty much where the high end ends. Because after that, he gives up a lot of runs. Then Austin Gomber. Never even heard of him before this, so we'll see what we see. Bullpen. This is kind of interesting for as far as the closer goes. Daniel Bard. So he was in the league 2009 to 2013. So he technically did get a ring with that 2013 Red Sox team. He only played in 2 games, but as far as I'm aware, if you were affiliated with a team that wins the World Series, you do get a ring. So, like, he was a member of the Red Sox for that time, and it looks like he's trying to make his triumphant comeback, which, hey, if it works out, by all means, more power to you. I hope it works out for him, but he was out of baseball for so long, we don't really know what we're going to get. The rest of the bullpen, Michael Givens, Robert Stevenson, and Scott Oberg. Michael Givens started his career pretty well for Baltimore, but it got progressively worse, especially whenever he was moved to the closer position. I guess he just doesn't really handle the pressure of being a closer all that well, because that's whenever his numbers get substantially worse. But whenever he's just your standard bullpen guy, he actually does really well. Robert Stevenson and Scott Oberg, they're not particularly good. But again, at least with the bullpen, I know who their bullpen guys are. I can't say that with the mess that they have in the infield. Those are my thoughts on the Colorado Rockies. And if I failed to mention it, this is probably the worst team in baseball. Yes, I'm including Pittsburgh whenever I say that. Pittsburgh's in competition with them, but Colorado's probably the worst team in baseball. Those are my thoughts on the Colorado Rockies. And if you'd like to let me know your thoughts, you can do so down in the comments below. Or if you're listening on my podcast, come over to my YouTube channel and leave some comments below. Or you can let me know on Instagram at Adamo_baseball. You can do that if you're watching my channel too. So with that being said, thank you for listening and watching. Cheers until next time.